Welcome back to the Comic Book ASM Artist. Today we're going to read the first part of Marvels. And with the future comic readings, I'm going to read some what I consider classic comic stories and then read some modern comic stories when I'm doing selections, so there's a good balance. This story came out when I was 9 years old, and it always just had a lasting impact on me, the detail and the care and just how it was unlike anything else at the time on the stands. And it's just always been something I really enjoyed. So we're going to read the first bit of Marvels together. And then there is a Kurt Busiek's signature when I met him. It is with considerable difficulty that I remember the original era of my being. Horton, Phineas Thomas Horton, quite possibly the greatest scientist of his time. He was my father. His discoveries far outnumbered those of his contemporaries. Years ahead of his time, Horton's advanced knowledge of steel and synthetics, coupled with a greater understanding of the human mind, made him the envy and oddity of the scientific community. For him, science was the means by which he could achieve his goal, to unlock the deeper secrets of creation itself. As he withstood the skepticism and jeers of his colleagues, he pulled his resources towards the realization of his goal. The stress of his life's work would culminate in me. I cannot recall it perfectly, but in my first moment of consciousness something unpredicted occurred. Due to some flaw in my original conception, my body had an incendiary reaction to the contact with air. Despite this, I remained completely unharmed, and once the supply of oxygen was cut off, the destructive effect ceased, and I returned to my former inert state. Phineas Horton was like a modern-day Prometheus, stealing fire from the heavens and handing the human torch down to man. The first of those to see me were terrified by my peculiar ability. However, mankind was not yet ready for this gift, and Horton was scorned for creating a potential menace. Before my life could be disposed by the scientific community, my father abated the public pressure by stealing me away. I was placed in a foster home made entirely out of stone, away from the oxygen, away from the crowds. Some hoped my imprisonment would be permanent, but my father had other plans for me. He provided a way for me to be educated while confined to my concrete tomb, until such a time as he could cure or control my extraordinary affliction. I spent this time, which seemed like years, in a virtually lifeless state. I was taught the names of objects that I could not see, touch, or smell. I could not only envision them, and with no frame of reference, it was next to impossible from the very beginning. I was learning a great deal about the world, and even more about the pain of forced solitude. I was aware of everything, understanding nothing. I could barely comprehend what had happened to me in the course of my short life. I had been ripped from my original womb and thrust into a world where every noise was equal to a scream. I had gone from the security of darkness to a place where light blazed from every direction, and yet as I became aware of these sensations, as my eyes, my ears, and my skin would focus upon these, they disappeared, and once again would fall into the darkness and silence which lacked the comfort they once held. They were now only mocking reminders of all that was denied me. My father brought me into this world and kept me alive when others would have me destroyed. Why then did he allow this torment? Was he so easily willing to forsake me? Was it possible that, while I believed in him as a father, he did not believe in me as a son? I knew that the air that once tasted, I knew I wanted to taste it again, always and forever. More than anything else, however, I wanted to be with you. I wanted to be a part of your world. As my young mind developed, I learned to recognize the beauty and the value of human life. Life and freedom commanded my respect, as I possessed neither. At the same time, I was becoming aware of myself as an individual. I was the first of my kind. Was it right that I should be given life, only to be placed in eternal imprisonment, to be tantalized with knowledge of the world and denied a chance to savor it? Salvation finally came. A tiny crack in my concrete surroundings brought in the sweet air that I had craved for so long. In one abrupt moment, a cataclysmic burst of color, light, and sound, I was free. As at the moment of my birth, I screamed. I was finally free to breathe again, to feel the rush of heat animate my frame. My father tried to call me back, but knowing what he had denied me, I ran, afraid of being imprisoned again. I ran blindly into the night and experienced again the panic and astonishment that my menacing appearance provoked in people. I have since learned to control my condition and have come to mean something very different to the society in which now I belong. As I have learned since, I was not the first anomaly to exist, but on that day of my freedom in 1939, this world had its first confrontation with the fantastic. The golden age of miracles would begin. In the years to come, the world would know the presence of the unnatural and extraordinary as part of reality. Chapter 1: A Time of Marvels. There was fire in 39. Even I could feel it. I was nothing but a scrappy Brooklyn kid, still wet behind the ears. But we were a scrappy country back then. We cayued the Great Depression, and the blaze in Europe didn't scare us. You believe that Hitler in his readiness for peace bunk? Yeah, while he's pouring crack troops into the Rhineland. How soon you figure before we're in it? Ask Senator Toby once FDR finishes chewing him up. Our fire was hotter and we were ready to prove it. They're going to need good photographers over there, and I'm good. The name Phil Sheldon may mean nothing now. But you just wait and see. Europe's where things are jumping, where careers are being made. Yeah, and where people are dying by the carload. Me, I'm not tired of sordid old New York yet. I don't think I ever will be. But to each his own when I run the bugle. Here we go again. As I was saying, when I run the bugle, you can head the foreign bureau. Maybe if I still feel like it. For now, though, we're just working stiffs, and we take the jobs we get handed. Of course, some jobs are better than others. And on that note, I'll see you birds later. Got a juicy labor dispute to cover. Thanks for the ride, and have fun with your crackpot. Rub it in, why don't you? Go fry your hat, pal. The nerve of some people. I kept an eye out for photo possibilities, but didn't expect any. Phineas T. Horton was one of those scientists. His tamer theories made Einstein seem like recipes for chicken soup. Welcome, gentlemen. I'm glad so many of you could come. And then it was a slow news day. He spouted some dime novel rubbish about some synthetic man he was having trouble with. I thought about Europe and didn't pay attention until I'll allow some oxygen to enter the chamber, and you'll see why I call him Good Lord. The Human Torch. The sudden jolt of shock and terror rocked us back like a physical blow, but it only lasted a moment. Then common sense reasserted itself. The thing was a fake. It had to be. Check your calendar, Horton. Halloween's not for weeks yet. What'd you do? Douse a mannequin in kerosene? We should have brought marshmallows. I'd have scoffed too, but I was doing my job, thinking a picture might make the back pages somewhere. So I was the only one looking directly at the thing when it moved. It looked alive, as human as you or I, but it was on fire, and I swear it looked straight at me. You want your name in the paper, Horton? You'll get it, but not the way you'd hoped. But, gentlemen, that thing is a danger to the whole city. Destroy it or we'll force you to. I didn't know what to say on the way to the cars. I don't think anyone did. But we knew our jobs. Extra, extra, read all about it. Blazing man on fire. I couldn't help feeling a little sorry for Horton. That thing, it looked at me like a person would. What must it have been like to destroy it? I heard later he ended up burying it. Power to the press. But the weeks passed, and there were other kinds of fire. What do you think, sweetheart? The ones in the blue box? There was work and life in the city by night, and in my case there was Doris Jacquette. They're awful pricey. I love you, but I don't want to break you. Let's do it, Doris. Let's take the risk. I can see it all, Doris. I'll make it to Europe. Make a name for myself. I'll be able to give you all you deserve. The little house in Queens, the white picket fence, the works. Sounds great, but I just settle for you, safe and alive. There was no need for her to worry about that. I was immortal. We all were back then. That scream. There wasn't any real danger. This might be it, the scoop that'll convince Mr. Goodman to send me to Europe. Just opportunity. What is that? Stay away, Charlie. Make it stay away, please. Wait here, honey, where it's safe. I'll be right back. And when I rounded the corner, no. It was clear in their faces they'd seen the stories in the paper chuckled over them as they ate their eggs and bacon, but now those faces told a different story, a story of fear and awe, in a world cut loose from its moorings. Of course, I wasn't watching them. And just as I was wondering how the torch escaped, and thinking that he looked as surprised and confused as we did, and at the same time telling myself that ridiculous that it was an object, not a person, he was gone, leaving behind nothing but flaming footprints that flickered and died in the chill of night air. I must be seeing things. It was a trick of the light, yeah. Phil, too much bubbly. Propaganda, some kind of German trick. What was it? I saw something in the sky. They couldn't comprehend what they'd seen, so they dismissed it. It was over. They could shake it off now, but I'd seen it twice. So while the rest of New York went back to business, dancing to Jimmy Dorsey and watching the war in Europe like a ball game, I waited for the other shoe to drop. Phil, Phil, thank goodness you're here. What is it, Doris? What happened? It was so, it was, steady, sweetheart. Take a deep breath. I was on my lunch break. I took my sandwich to the waterfront like I usually do. But there was this man, Phil, this big, eerie-looking, naked man. He had a bandaged girl. The police said he kidnapped her from the hospital. The police, they shot him. But Phil, the bullets didn't hurt him at all. He picked up a police car and threw it. He threw the car. He leaped into the water and looked back at the cops like they were just a nuisance to him. The police, they saved the girl, but the naked man just swam away without ever coming up for air. Ah, criminy, I've been hearing this submariner story all morning. He busted up a power plant, went flying over Central Park, and it's a load of hooey. It's one of the Morrison Wells tricks. Bunch of old suckers believe. Yeah, but I was there. I saw it. Just a trick, little lady. Phil, it's okay, sweetheart. You saw what you saw. They all agreed that she was wrong and it was nothing, and I wondered how long they could keep it up. Not that long, as it turned out. Manhattan seemed like the whole world to us sometimes, but it was an island, and the marvels among us didn't exactly hide. Melted that poor man's car. Caught a dangerous maniac, they say. A gang of hoodlums in special flaming suits. Where'd they get that idea then? Not natural. That horrifying face. Stopped that racing scam a few weeks back. Just what he wants you to think. Whole subway tunnel was flooded. Would have drowned for sure. Saved us all. Who's to say he didn't start the flooding in the first place? Ripped right through steel, shifted tons of metal and glass, and do we say thank you to... Don't like those ears at all. And when you came right down to it, the island wasn't that big. Look at this story. Human Torch flies medicine to trapped town. Now, where's that easy wit of yours, that cheerful contempt for the world and everything in it? The things these freaks do, making Joes like you and me look like pikers, and we just lap it up. I'd like to lock 'em up and throw away the key. That's enough. Food here's lousy anyway. Not that big at all. It was around then that I finally got my chance to go to Europe, but you're turning it down? Phil, you've been begging for this for months. I know, Mr. Goodman, and I can't explain it. I just rather stay for now. What could I say that the city had changed somehow and things just didn't seem right anymore? I'm sorry. Still, that's how I felt. And with Doris and her mother all a Twitter over wedding plans, what do you think, Phil? Pink or mauve? Ah, whatever. They're both fine. It's not like there hadn't been mystery men before, the Angel, the Phantom Eagle, even as far back as the Rawhide Kid, but this was different. These new creatures, they were more than human. Phil, is something wrong? You've been jumpy as a cat all evening. It's nothing, I'm fine. I'm going out for a smoke. How was I supposed to be a husband, maybe a father, in a world where any moment a monster could come crashing through your wall? Marvels, I called them, and that's what they were. Next to that, what were we? Before they came, we were so big, so grand. We were Americans, young, strong, vital. We were the ones who got things done, but we'd gotten smaller. I could see it in those same faces, faces that had once been so confident, so brash. We weren't the players anymore, we were the spectators. We were waiting for something without knowing what it was. And in the late spring of 1940, fellas, Mr. Goodman wants all of you in his office pronto. You ain't gonna believe what's happened. The waiting stopped. The Submariner was pitching a fit and taking it out on the city, and the chief of police sicked the Human Torch on him. It was as if the gods of legend had returned to Earth, at least if you read about it in the papers, that is, to follow the Marvels through their combat as the Submariner bolted from landmark to landmark, sowing destruction, the torch a streak of fire on his tail. It must have seemed like a glorious aerial ballet, dangerous, beautiful, and thrilling, and maybe it was, but not for us. What we saw was carnage and destruction and confusion. Cripes, look at the yell. Which way, kid? That way, toward the Empire State Building. The frightened people who felt safe a minute or two ago, trying to get out of the way, were not sure which way to run. We've got to get to a phone. We barely even saw any of the action. It moved so fast. Look, there he goes. I'm no fan of that guy. I don't hold with people built from a kit. But right here and now, I hope he gives that water-breathing jerk what for. Don't say that. You don't know what you're talking about, huh? And you are? Betty Dean, policewoman. I've met Namor. He's only trying to get what he considers justice for his people. You shouldn't judge him until you know both sides of the story. People, there's more than one of him? Hey, did you hear? That Submariner guy just flooded the Holland Tunnel, and it's full of cars. I've got to get to a phone. You'll have to excuse us, Officer Dean. So while they wheeled and soared and clashed in the spring sunshine, we kept in the shadows and strained for any word of them. Can't get any better reception than that, Lanigan. Shh. Repeat, the latest developments. The Human Torch was imprisoned, the Submariner, beneath the sheet of flame in Upstate Reservoir, but the undersea dynamo freed himself even as the Army bombed his fiery prison. We'll continue to bring you updates as they occur, but now a word from Blast Them. What is it, Phil? What's wrong? Look at us, just sitting here, waiting. There isn't a thing we can do. And this is our city, our world. Who gave them the right to just come in and take it away from us? Look alive, kids. Police Bull says the Torch is back in town and headed for the Torpy Chemical Works. He's up to something, all right. Let's move. As luck would have it, the police had cleared the bridges by then, and our press credentials got us through. Boy, Phil, I've got to hand it to you. You're an unsmart guy, huh? If you'd taken that job, you'd be on a steamer to Europe right now, and you'd be missing this. Who cares about the war in Europe anymore? We got our own war right here, and this time, Jimmy, we're Johnny on the spot. It was the first thing I heard all this that made any sense. It was like a war, not just the battles, but the very fact that the Marvels themselves a war, or some freakish violent storm. And all we could do, all anyone could do, was hold fast and hope to ride it out. It's that cop, that Dean woman. She's gotten them to make nice and at each other. I don't believe it. They're actually smiling at each other. If they shake hands, I'm definitely gonna throw up. Just like that, it was over, and of course, there were no reprisals, no punishments. Nobody got hurt but us, the normal people. Aw, nuts, the Torch just let him go after all he did. That ain't fair. Forget it, Iggy. You expect a storm to pay for the damage it caused? A war to care for those who get killed? Huh? Just forget it. The next day dawned like nothing had happened at all. Everybody put their backs into digging out, repairing the damage, just like ants. And we all grumbled, and we all said something ought to be done. But what was there to do? What was there for a man to do? I found Doris at a makeshift clinic on the east side. This is Mr. Compton, Phil. He was in the L when it went down. Summer ride, you bet. Woo-wee. Doris, can I spare you a minute? What happened yesterday? What's been happening for months? It'll blow over. It can't keep on forever. But until things are sane again, well, a man's nothing next to those things. Phil, what are you saying? Maybe we should put our wedding plans off for a little while, just until this is all over. I don't want a Superman, darling. You don't understand. A man's got to be able to protect his family. If he can't do that, he's got no business being a husband. If that's how you feel, Phil, you'd better have this back. I wouldn't want to burden you. Doris, if you ever want to give it back, you know where to find me. When this is over, I said, when would that be? It'd blow over. The world wouldn't stay like this. It couldn't. Could it? Fall turned to winter in 40 to 41, and nothing changed. Everything was in turmoil everywhere. So, I want to call her. I stared at the telephone for 2 hours last night, but you're an imbecile, Phil. Things change, but not the way anyone expected. But I always have to be the Nazis. I don't wanna. Take a listen, Phil. I wanna be Captain America. Okay then, I'm a Ratseed dive bomber, and I'm dropping my bombs all over ya. Don't be stupid, Maxie. Bombs don't mean nothing to Captain America. Look at this. He's the best. He'd rip onto you, rip off your canopy, and stuff them bombs down your Nazi throat. Nothing stops him. A tank? He'd kick it on its back like a turtle. A platoon? Scattered like duck pins. He's Captain America, Maxie. He's the best. He hit like a blitzkrieg. You couldn't go anywhere without hearing about him. Secret weapon, on good authority, a shooting star. fella told me the governor, whole squad of them. Nobody admitted to knowing anything at the Department of the Army, but they were sure smug about something in the headlines. I knew the guys who wrote the stories and still had trouble believing them. The Nazi saboteurs, the assassination rings, the fifth columnists. Every day it seemed like there was something new. He strolled out of the Nazi strongholds like he was walking through the park, shrugged off bullets and bayonets. And we ate it up like candy. That Captain America, he'll give that Hitler what for. Did you see those pictures on Life magazine? Those shoulders, those eyes. He's doing what we ought to be doing, taking a fight to the man who started it. Can't wait till we're in this. You'll see some stuff then. And my Fury Boy will be leading a charge, eh? Captain Hell's Kitchen. Maybe you can be his kid partner if Bucky catches chicken pox, Nicky the Kid Scrapper. Shut up, all yez, before I pop you one. And the most amazing thing was this. No one was scared of him. He was as much a marvel as the Torch or the Submariner, but he was never a threat like they were. Was it because they were outsiders and he was one of us? Our own personal American champion? Whatever it was catching, as we found out a few weeks later. Hi, Doris. You know Bill Lumpkin, don't you? I'm not sure. We've met, but I'm sure you wouldn't remember me. Nice to see you again, then, I guess. I don't get it, Phil. Isn't that your girl? Shh. Enjoy the movie. The show was a pretty good one. They had a silly symphony and a follow the bouncing ball sing-along. And then they showed the newsreel. Dramatic footage captured from the vaults of the German High Command and British agents, showing a stunning victory for the forces of freedom and justice. As the incredible Human Torch and the indefeatable Submariner roll the Nazi Jap war machine, it seems the amazing aces of fire and water uncovered a joint effort by the Germans to burrow an invasion tunnel under the Bering Strait to Alaska. And weren't those military mountbacks surprised when a couple of unannounced guests dropped in for a visit? The Nazis had guns, tanks, poison gas. You never saw a theater fall so silent so fast. But did the Human Torch care? No, sir, he did not. As for the Submariner, well, he clearly believes in the old adage that actions speak louder than words. And when it was over, go, Torch, hit those Nazi rats, smash him, sink him. Submariner, what a guy, what a combo. The Human Torch and the Submariner had fought against the warmongers before, but never so publicly, so spectacularly, and never together. And if it struck me as odd at that time to applaud to two men who caused so much destruction so recently, I was too busy cheering to notice. Overnight we adopted the Marvels as our boys, and we weren't shy about it. He used to live right around here, they say. He saved my business from the gasoline syndicate. Sure as shootin'. Catch that, Namor? Says here he broke up a prison of war escape from in Canada. Guess he showed those boys who's boss. He ain't a patch on the Torch. You hear he nabbed the arsonist? The world had shifted again. The dark, menacing shadows had been lit up. And turned out not to be monsters after all. I'm glad you agreed to see me, Doris. That guy, Bill, he's really just our mailman. We met in the lobby. I've been acting like a fool, kind of. No argument from me, Phil. Well, you know, do you think we could go back to the way things were? I don't think so. I'm still sort of mad at you. But if you want to start over, I think that could be arranged. I can't remember a more glorious fall. The air was crisp, the days were bright and fresh, and the world was full of wonders. I was thinking of the little house and the picket fence, and the only marvels I cared about were Doris's eyes, and there was no danger, nothing that couldn't be safely ignored. So it was as much of a shock to me as to everyone else. When Stop the music, please. If I could have everyone's attention. I've been asked to tell you the Submariner has apparently launched a military attack on all of civilization. He's been reported battling both British and Italian forces in Spain and is currently in possession of Gibraltar. The Human Torch led a British counterattack, but he has not been heard from in many hours. It is considered unlikely that the Submariner's forces will reach the United States, but nevertheless, watertight shelters are being prepared in the subway tunnels. Emergency instructions will be posted in the public places. Every sentence was a thunderbolt. It didn't make any sense. The Submariner was one of our boys, wasn't he? How can this be happening? It isn't possible. These must have been what Londoners felt like during the Blitz. They felt so safe on their side of the channel, and then the channel didn't mean anything anymore. We listened for instructions, for evacuation plans, and we listened as a Submariner was reported to be attacking in Africa, Berlin, Canada. Attention, attention, this is not a drill. The Submariner is headed for New York. This is not a drill. Please proceed to your nearest shelter immediately. Phil, I knew what she was thinking. I'd said it before, a man's gotta be able to protect his family. If he can't do that, you'd better get to the shelter, honey. But what about, I've got a job to do. Phil, got your camera? It's riveted on. They said south on the radio. The battery, come on. Get to the shelters, both of press. The torch is on the way, we just heard. In here. If we can make it to the roof. I'm staying here. I've got a clear view and a great on-hold. Not me, I'm not hiding from it. I reach the roof just as here it comes. It was something to see. We heard later about how he used whales and super turbines to generate the wave, but at the moment it hit, it was nature unleashed, pure and simple. Namor, this stops now. It was as if everything that had been brewing since we first saw the torch burst into flame had broken in one colossal storm. You won't find it easy, Firebug. And I was at its eye. I was a part of it. I was right where I belonged. I was the witness. A chunk of masonry, the doctors told me, broken loose during the fight by one or both of them, marking me for all time. by the time I woke up, it was all over. In more ways than one, reparations were being made and the Submariner was on the side of the Angels again. But more importantly, Japan had attacked Pearl Harbor. We were at war with the Axis powers and nobody had the time to worry about the Marvels anymore. Phil, they said you were Aya, sweetheart. Those flowers all from you? Nope, they're from her. Oh, Phil, your eye, the doctor said. How do I feel? You mean, aside from wondering whether monocular vision will improve my photography? Am I mad at the Marvels for taking my eye? Am I going to swear vengeance on them? Devote my life to destroying them all, for driving them out of our world so everything can be the way it was again? Is that what you're asking? Something like that. Nah, I'm going to have more important things to do. There's a war on, for one, and we've got a wedding to plan, that is, if you're willing to marry Popeye the cameraman. Shut up and kiss me, would ya? Well, I'd say he's recovered. I was 4F thanks to my eye, but I did get to Europe as the war correspondent I'd wanted to be at the start. The food here is lousy, but what do you expect? I think it's last year's leftovers from the Bugle lunchroom. Moving out in 5 minutes, Phil. I'll be ready, Casey. I've been thinking about what I tried to tell you when I left. About that day and what happened. I think I know how to say it now. I've been waiting for the Marvels to go away, and what I realized that day, what maybe we all realized, they weren't some temporary thing like the World's Fair or the Olympics or even the war. They were for real. The Marvels are here to stay, and there's more of them all the time. Citizen V, the Wizard, Blue Diamond. I could wait forever if I wanted, but that would just stop me, not them. Just got the word, let's go. And the thing I didn't see until I was up on that building and the wave was crashing around me, it isn't going to be them that adapts to us. The world is different now. The rules have changed. Down there, see 'em? That's a lot of Germans. Forever. And nobody has any idea what the future is going to bring. Yeah, but look what's coming. But do you know what? It's going to be one heck of a ride finding out your loving husband, Phil. End of book 1. Alright, that's going to do it for now. Thank you for joining me. Be back for part 2. I don't know when it'll be recorded. But let me know what you thought of the video. Let me know what books you want to see me read on the channel as well. You have quite a few classics in mind. Not so sure about the modern stuff though. That's kind of a gamble. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe, share it. Help me grow the channel. I'm trying to push this thing to 1,000 with your all's help. And you all have a good day or night. Thank you so much. Bye.